Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in the Haven in southeast England, just across the way from the English Channel. Second day of January 2021. You have to all remember to fill in the dates right in your forms, etc., etc. Maybe that you'll need some kind of vaccine visa to be able to travel at some time in the near future. So we need to adapt ourselves to change. The material world, as Krishna describes in the Gita, is constantly changing. But the thing is, the soul isn't. The soul is not changing. We're the same person we were in 1990 or 1980 or 1970 or 1960 or 1950 or 1946, which is when I was born. Same person. We all have that experience, but because our mind is so much covered by passion and ignorance, we're actually thinking we are the body. We're actually thinking we are the mind. But we're not those things. We have not changed. Therefore, they have a saying, when we get old, you feel young. I know now I'm 70, going to 75. I'm 74, going to 75. And I feel young inside, even though my body is going through so many changes. I have youthful energy. And I take that as Prabhupada's mercy and the fact that I've followed this process for a long time, strictly as I can. So let's move into 2021 and continue to hear Srila Prabhupada's books in the association of other devotees who like to hear Srila Prabhupada's books. We learn this philosophy. Could they hear before I wore it?
Yeah, you can hear it, but it's not as clear.
Not as clear.
They could hear it.
They could hear it. Okay. Anyway, sorry I didn't have my microphone on for the first words I've said, but here we are again. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is ready to take us into 2021 with this beautiful poetic glorification of the book we're reading now, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage. Because after the flood has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So we reached the 4th chapter of the Antya-līlā. Srila Sanātana Gosvāmī is visiting Lord Chaitanya in Purī. It's the second time they've had, substantial meeting. The last substantial meeting, they met once early on when Lord Chaitanya was on his way to Vrindavan, and was advised by Sanātana Gosvāmī not to go with millions and millions and millions of people following him. And Lord Chaitanya accepted him, accepted his seniority and his wisdom, and turned back and didn't go to Vrindavan that time. And then he met him again in Varanasi and instructed him for 2 months straight and gave him his full mercy. So now Sanātana Gosvāmī has met him in Purī, and he's contracted some itching sores on his body when he was traveling through the Jagannātha forest. And Sanātana Gosvāmī was planning on committing suicide, but Lord Chaitanya tried to talked him out of it. And then Sanātana Gosvāmī was still feeling bad that he was offending Lord Chaitanya by having Lord Chaitanya touch his body with these oozing sores. So he talked to Jagannātha Pandit. And Jagannātha Pandit says, well, you got your order already from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Vrindavan is your place of service, so you should go back to Vrindavan. So that's where we pick up at verse 146. After talking in this way, Sanātana Gosvāmī and Jagannātha Pandit returned to their respective duties. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Haridas and Sanātana Gosvāmī. Haridas Thakur offered obeisances to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord embraced him in ecstatic love. 147. Sanātana Gosvāmī offered his obeisances and dandavats from a distant place, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called him again and again to embrace him. 148. Out of fear of committing offenses, Sanātana Gosvāmī did not come forward to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord, however, went forward to meet him. 149. Sanātana Gosvāmī backed away, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu caught him by force and embraced him. 150. The Lord took them both with him and sat down in a sacred place. Then Sanātana Gosvāmī, who was advanced in renunciation, began to speak. I came here for my benefit, he said, but I see that I am getting just the opposite. I am unfit to render service. I simply commit offenses day after day. 152. By nature, I am low-born. I am a contaminated reservoir of sinful activities. If you touch me, sir, that will be a great offense on my part. 153. Moreover, blood is running from infected, itching sores on my body, smearing your body with moisture, but still you touch me by force. My dear sir, you do not have even a pinch of aversion to touching my body, which is in a horrible condition. Because of this offense, everything auspicious will be vanquished for me. Therefore I see that I will get nothing auspicious by staying here. Kindly give me orders, allowing me to return to Vrindavan after the Ratha Yatra festival. 156. I have consulted Jagannātha Pandit for his opinion, and he has also advised me to return to Vrindavan. Text 157. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in an angry mood, began to chastise Jagannātha Pandit. 158. Jagannātha Pandit, is only a new boy, but he has become so proud that he thinks himself competent to advise a person like you. 159. In affairs of spiritual advancement, and even in ordinary dealings, You are on the level of his spiritual master. Yet not knowing his own value, he dares to advise you. 160. My dear Sanātana, you are on the level of my advisor, for you are an authorized person. But Jaga wants to advise you. This is but the impudence of a naughty boy. 161. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was thus chastising Jagannātha Pandit, Sanātana Gosvāmī fell at the Lord's feet and said, I can now understand the fortunate position of Jagannātha. 162. I can also understand my misfortune. No one in this world is as fortunate as Jagannātha. 163. Sir, you are making Jagannātha drink the nectar of affectionate relationships, whereas by offering me honorable prayers, you are making me drink the bitter juice of Nimba, and Nishinda. Text 146. I hope everyone's taking notes about what it means to be humble. It is my misfortune that you have not accepted me as one of your intimate relations, but you are the completely independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. 165. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was somewhat ashamed. Just to satisfy Sanātana Gosvāmī, he spoke the following words. 166. My dear Sanātana, please do not think that Jagannātha is more dear to me than you. However, I cannot tolerate transgressions of the standard etiquette. You are an experienced authority in the Shastras, whereas Jaga is just a young boy. You have the power to convince even me. In many places, you have already convinced me about ordinary behavior and devotional service. Jaga's advising you is intolerable for me. Therefore, I am chastising him. I offer you praise, not because I think of you as being outside an intimate relationship with me, but because you are actually so qualified that one is forced to praise your qualities. 171. Although one has affection for many persons, different types of ecstatic love awaken according to the nature of one's personal relationships. You consider your body dangerous and awful, but I think that your body is like nectar. Actually, your body is transcendental, never material. You are thinking of it, however, in terms of a material conception. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives his opinion about how a person completely engaged in the service of the Lord transforms his body from material to transcendental. He says, a pure devotee engaged in the service of Lord Krishna has no desire for his personal sense gratification, and thus he never accepts anything for that purpose. He desires only the happiness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and because of his ecstatic love for Krishna, he acts in various ways. Karmis think that the material body is an instrument for material enjoyment, and that is why they work extremely hard. A devotee, however, has no such desires. A devotee always engages wholeheartedly in the service of the Lord, forgetting about bodily conceptions and bodily activities. The body of a karmi is called material because the karmi, being too absorbed in material activities, is always eager to enjoy material facilities. But the body of a devotee who tries his best to work very hard for the satisfaction of Krishna by fully engaging in the Lord's service must be accepted as transcendental. Whereas karmis are interested only in the personal satisfaction of their senses, devotees work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, one who cannot distinguish between devotion and ordinary karma may mistakenly consider the body of a pure devotee material. One who knows does not commit such a mistake. Non-devotees who consider devotional activities and ordinary material activities to be on the same level are offenders to the chanting of the transcendental holy name of the Lord. A pure devotee knows that a devotee's body, being always transcendental, is just suitable for rendering service to the Lord. A devotee on the topmost platform of devotional service always humbly thinks that he is not rendering any devotional service. He thinks that he is poor in devotional service and that his body is material. On the other hand, those known as the sahajas foolishly think that their material bodies are transcendental. Because of this, they are always bereft of the association of pure devotees, and thus they cannot behave like Vaishnavas. Observing the defects of the sahajas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung as follows in his book Caitanya-caritämrta. Amita Vaishnava e buddhi haile amani nahaba ami pratishtasha ashi hridaya dushibe haiba naraya gami nije shrestha jani uchtishtadi dani habe abhimana bara tai shishatava takya sarvada nalyava pujakara. If I think I am a Vaishnava, I shall look forward to receiving respect from others. And if the desire for fame and reputation pollutes my heart, certainly I shall go to hell. By giving others the remnants of my food, I shall consider myself superior and shall be burdened with the weight of false pride. Therefore, always remaining your surrendered disciple, I shall not accept worship from anyone else. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswāmī has written in Antya-līlā chapter 20, verse 28. Wherever there is a relationship of love of Godhead, the natural symptom is that the devotee does not think himself a devotee, but always thinks that he has not even a drop of love for Krishna. Let that sink in for a second. Again, wherever there is a relationship of love of Godhead, the natural symptom is that the devotee does not think himself a devotee, but always thinks that he has not even a drop of love for Krishna. Text 174. Even if your body were material, I still could not neglect it, for the material body should be considered neither good nor bad. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanātana Gosvāmī, since you are a Vaishnava, your body is spiritual, not material. Therefore you should not consider this body to be subjected to superior or inferior qualities. Moreover, I am a sannyasi. Therefore, if your body were material, a sannyasi should see no distinction between a good body and a bad body. Anything not conceived in relationship to Krishna should be understood to be illusion, maya. None of the illusions uttered by words or conceived in the mind are factual. Because illusion is not factual, there is no distinction between what we think is good and what we think is bad. When we speak of the absolute truth, such speculations do not apply. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:28-4. In the material world, conceptions of good and bad are all mental speculations. Therefore, saying this is good and this is bad is all a mistake. Purport. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the absolute truth, ever existing with different varieties of energies. When one is absorbed in the illusory energy of Krishna and cannot understand Krishna, one cannot ascertain what is good for him and what is bad. Conceptions of good and bad are all imaginations or mental speculations. When one forgets that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, he wants to enjoy the material world through different plans. At that time he distinguishes between material plans that are good and those that are bad. Actually, however, they are all false. Text 177. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane gabihastani shuni chaiva shrapake cha pandita samadarshinaha. This is a quotation from the Bhagavad Gita 5:18. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater. Bhagavad Gita 15:18. 178. Jnana vijnana triptatma kutasto vijitendriyaha yukti it uchite yogi somaloshrashma kanchanaha. One who is fully satisfied in knowledge obtained and practically applied in life, who is always determined and fixed in his spiritual position, who completely controls his senses, and who sees pebbles, stones, and gold on the same level, is understood to be a perfect yogi. Purport. This is also a quotation from the Bhagavad Gita 6:8. Since I am in the renounced order, Lord Chaitanya is continuing, 179. Since I am in the renounced order, my duty is to make no distinctions and be equipoised. My knowledge must be equally disposed towards sandalwood pulp and dirty mud. Purport. It is the duty of a sannyasi, a person in the renounced order, to be always equipoised. And that is also the duty of a learned man and a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava, a sannyasi, or a learned person has no conception of the material world. In other words, he has no conception of anything materially important. He has no desire to use sandalwood pulp for sense gratification, nor does sense gratification make him hate mud. Acceptance or rejection of material things is not the concern of a sannyasi, a Vaishnava, or a learned person. An advanced devotee has no desire to enjoy or reject anything. His only duty is to accept whatever is favorable for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. A Vaishnava should be indifferent to material enjoyment and renunciation, and should always hanker for the spiritual life of rendering service to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Text 180. For this reason, I cannot reject you. If I hated you, I would deviate from my occupational duty. 181. Haridas said, My dear Lord, what you have spoken deals with external formalities. I do not accept it. Hare Krishna. 182. My Lord, we are all fallen, but you have accepted us due to your attribute of being merciful to the fallen. This is well known all over the world. Text 183. Lord Chaitanya smiled. and said, "Listen, Haridas and Sanātana, now I am speaking the truth about how my mind is attached to you." 184. My dear Haridas and Sanātana, I think of you as my little boys, to be maintained by me. The maintainer never takes seriously any faults of the maintained. Purport. When a father maintains a child and the child is maintained by the father never takes seriously the faults of the child. Even if they actually are faults, the father does not mind them. Text 185. I always think of myself as deserving no respect, but because of affection, I always consider you to be like my little children. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. 186. When a child passes stool and urine that touch the body of the mother never hates the child. On the contrary, she takes much pleasure in cleansing him. 187. The stool and urine of the maintained child appear like sandalwood pulp to the mother. Similarly, when the foul moisture oozing from the sores of Sanātana touches my body, I have no hatred for him. Haridas Thakur said, "My dear sir, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are most merciful toward us. No one can understand what is within your deeply affectionate heart." 189. You embraced the leper Vasudeva, whose body was fully infected by worms. You are so kind that in spite of his condition, you embraced him. 190. By embracing him, you made his body as beautiful as that of Cupid. We cannot understand the waves of your mercy. 191. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said the body of a devotee is never material. It is considered to be transcendental, full of spiritual bliss. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to convince Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Gosvāmī that a devotee whose life is dedicated to the service of the Lord is never in the material conception. Because he always engages in the service of the Lord, his body is transcendental and full of spiritual bliss. One should never consider his body material, just as one should never consider the body of the deity worshipped in the temple to be made of stone or wood. Factually, the deity is directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without a doubt. The injunctions of the Padma Purana therefore state, Arche Vishnu Shila Dir Gurushu Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhihi Yasyava Nadaki Saha. That person is a resident of hell who considers the deity worshipped in the temple to be stone or wood, who considers the spiritual master an ordinary man, and who thinks that the body of a Vaishnava, fully dedicated to the service of the Lord, belongs to the material modes of nature. 192. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders unto the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as himself. 193. When the devotee's body is thus transformed into spiritual existence, the devotee in that transcendental body renders service to the lotus feet of the Lord. 194. The living entity who is subjected to birth and death attains immortality when he gives up all material activities, dedicates his life to the execution of my order, and acts according to my directions. In this way he becomes fit to enjoy the spiritual bliss derived from exchanging loving mellows with me. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:29-34. At the time of initiation, a devotee gives up all his material conceptions. Therefore, being in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is situated on the transcendental platform. Thus, having attained knowledge and the spiritual platform, he always engages in the service of the spiritual body of Krishna. When one is freed from material connections in this way, his body immediately becomes spiritual, and Krishna accepts his service. However, Krishna does not accept anything from a person with a material conception of life. When a devotee no longer has any desire for material sense gratification, in his spiritual identity, he engages in the service of the Lord, for his dormant spiritual consciousness awakens. This awakening of spiritual consciousness makes his body spiritual, and thus he becomes fit to render service to the Lord. Karmis may consider the body of a devotee material, but factually it is not, for a devotee has no conception of material enjoyment. If one thinks that the body of a pure devotee is material, he is an offender, for that is a Vaishnava, aparad. In this connection, one should consult Srila Sanātana Gosvāmī's Brihad Bhagavatamrita 1.345 and 2.3.139. Interesting, because at that point, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita was not published by the BBT yet. Mm. 195. Krishna somehow or other manifested these itching sores on the body of Sanātana Gosvāmī and sent him here to test me. Hare Krishna. That's Lord Chaitanya speaking to Haridas Thakur about Sanātana Gosvāmī. I'll read it again. Krishna somehow or other manifested these itching sores on the body of Sanātana Gosvāmī and sent him here to test me. 196. If I had hated Sanātana Gosvāmī and had not embraced him, I would certainly have been chastised for offenses to Krishna. 197. Sanātana Gosvāmī is one of the associates of Krishna. There could not be any bad odor from his body. From the first day I embraced him, I smelled the aroma of chatuk-sama, a mixture of sandalwood pulp, camphor, aguru, and musk. Purport. An associate of the Lord is one whose body is fully engaged in the service of the Lord. A materialist might see Sanātana Gosvāmī's body as being full of itching sores that exuded foul moisture and a bad smell. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, said that actually the aroma of his body was the excellent scent of a mixture of sandalwood pulp, camphor, musk, and aguru. In the Garuda Purana, this mixture, which is called chatuk-sama, is explained as follows. 2 parts of musk, 4 parts of sandalwood, 3 parts of aguru or saffron, and 1 part of camphor, when mixed together, form chatuk-sama. The aroma of chatuk-sama is very pleasing. It is also mentioned in the Hari Bhakti Bilas 6.292. In fact, however, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced the body of Sanātana Gosvāmī, by the Lord's touch alone, there was manifested a fragrance exactly like that of sandalwood pulp. Hare Krishna. 199. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, My dear Sanātana, do not be aggrieved, for when I embrace you, I actually get great pleasure. 200. Stay with me at Jagannath Purī for 1 year, and after that I shall send you to Vrindavan. 201. After saying that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again embraced Sanatana Gosvāmī. Thus immediately Sanatan's sores disappeared and his entire body resembled the color of gold. (202) Seeing the change, Haridas Thakur, greatly astonished, told the Lord, "This is your pastime." My dear Lord, you made Sanatana Gosvāmī drink the water of Jarikhanda, and you actually generated the consequent itching sores on his body. After thus causing these itching sores, you examined Sanatana Gosvāmī. No one can understand your transcendental pastimes. After embracing both Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Gosvāmī, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to his residence. Then Haridas and Sanatana, in great ecstatic love, began to describe the Lord's transcendental attributes. In this way, Sanatana Gosvāmī stayed under the care of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and discussed the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya. In this way, Sanatana Gosvāmī stayed under the care of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and discussed the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Haridas Thakur. After they saw the Dolayatra festival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatana Gosvāmī fully about what to do in Vrindavan and bade him farewell. 208. The scene of separation that took part when Sanatana Gosvāmī and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took leave of each other is so piteous that it cannot be described herein. Sanatana Gosvāmī decided to go to Vrindavan by the very forest path Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had traversed. Sanatana Gosvāmī noted from Balabhadra Bhattacharya all the villages, rivers, and hills where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed his pastimes. Sanatana Gosvāmī met all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then, traveling by that same path, visited the places through which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had passed. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in a song, Sharanagati 31.3, Gora Amara Ye Sabastani Karala Brahmana Range Se Sabastana Hedeva Ami Pranayi Bhagata Sange. May I visit all the holy places associated with the Leelas of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. A devotee should make a point of visiting all the places where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes. Indeed, pure devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even want to see the places he simply visited for only hours or minutes. (212) As soon as Sanatana Gosvāmī visited a place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed his pastimes, on the way, he was immediately filled with ecstatic love. In this way, Sanatana Gosvāmī reached Vrindavan. Later, Rupa Gosvāmī came and met him. 214. Srila Rupa Gosvāmī had been delayed in Bengal for a year because he was dividing his money among his relatives to situate them in their proper positions. Purport. Although Srila Rupa Gosvāmī renounced his family life, he nevertheless was not unjust to his family members. Even after renunciation, he returned to Bengal, where he properly divided whatever money he had and gave it to his relatives so they would not be inconvenienced. Text 215. He collected whatever money he had accumulated in Bengal and divided it among his relatives, the Brahmanas, and the temples. 216. Thus, after finishing all the tasks he had on his mind, he returned to Vrindavan fully satisfied. 217. The brothers met at Vrindavan, where they stayed to execute the will of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who was established within the material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanātana Goswami were previously ministers directly in charge of the government of Nawab Hussain Shah, and they were also householders, but later they became Goswamis. A Goswami, therefore, is one who executes the will of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The title Goswami is not an inherited designation. It is meant for a person who has controlled his sense gratification and dedicated his life to executing the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Srila Sanātana Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami became genuine Goswamis after dedicating their lives to the service of the Lord. Text 218. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanātana Goswami collected many revealed scriptures, and from the evidence in those scriptures, they excavated all the lost sites of pilgrimage. Thus they established temples for the worship of Lord Krishna. 219. Srila Sanātana Goswami compiled the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. From this book, one can understand who is a devotee, what is the process of devotional service, and who is Krishna, the Absolute Truth. 220. Srila Sanātana Goswami wrote a commentary on the 10th canto, known as Dashama Tippani, from which we can understand the transcendental pastimes and ecstatic love of Lord Krishna. 221. He also compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas, from which we can understand the standard behavior of a devotee and the full extent of a Vaishnava's duty. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, the Hari Bhakti Vilas was originally compiled by Srila Sanātana Goswami. Later, Gopal Bhatta Goswami produced a shortened version of it and added the Digdarshani Tika. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there are so many quotations from the Satpata scriptures that sometimes it is inquired how the atheistic smartas can refuse to accept them and instead imagine some other opinions. What is recorded in the Hari Bhakti Vilas strictly follows the Vedic scriptures and is certainly pure, but the attitude of the karmis is always one of giving up the conclusion of pure Vaishnava understanding. Because the karmis are very attached to the world and material activities, they always try to establish atheistic principles that oppose the understanding of the Vaishnavas. 222. Srila Sanātana Goswami also compiled many other books. Who can enumerate them? The basic principle of all these books is to show how to love Madan Mohan and Govindaji. Purport. The Bhakti Ratnakara refers to the following books of Srila Sanātana Goswami. 1. The Brihad Bhagavatamrita. 2. The Hari Bhakti Vilas and its commentary known as Digdarshani. 3. The Krishna-līlā Stava. And 4. The commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, known as Vaishnava Toshini. Sanātana Gosvāmī compiled many books, all with the aim of describing how to serve the principal deities of Vrindavan, Govinda and Madan Gopal. Later, other deities were gradually established and the importance of Vrindavan increased. 223. Srila Rupa Goswami also wrote many books, the most famous of which is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. From that book, one can understand the essence of devotional service to Krishna and the transcendental mellows one can derive from such service. Text 224. Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled the book named Ujjvala Nilamani, from which one can understand to the fullest limits the loving affairs of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled two important dramas named Bidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava, from which one can understand all the mellows derived from the pastimes of Lord Krishna. 226. Srila Rupa Goswami compiled 100,000 verses, beginning with the book Dana Keli Komudi. In all these scriptures, he elaborately explained the transcendental mellows of the activities of Vrindavan. Purport. Referring to the words Laksha Grantha, 100,000 verses, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the total number of verses written by Srila Rupa Goswami is 100,000, Eka Laksha or Laksha Grantha. The copyists count both the verses and the prose sections of the Sanskrit words. One should not mistakenly think that Srila Rupa Goswami compiled 100,000 books. He actually wrote 16 books, as mentioned in the first wave of the Bhakti Ratnakara, Sri Rupa Goswami Grantha Shodasha-karila. 227. The son of Sri Vallabha, or Anupama, Srila Rupa Goswami's younger brother, was the great learned scholar named Srila Jiva Goswami. 228. After renouncing everything, Srila Jiva Goswami went to Vrindavan. Later, he also wrote many books on devotional service and expanded the work of preaching. 229. In particular, Srila Jiva Goswami compiled the book named Bhagavat Sandarbha, or Shat Sandarbha, which is the essence of all scriptures. From this book one can obtain a conclusive understanding of devotional service and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 230. He also compiled the book named Gopala Champu, which is the essence of all Vedic literature. In this book, he has exhibited the ecstatic loving transactions and pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. 231. In the Shat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami set forth the truths about transcendental love of Krishna. In this way, he expanded 400,000 verses in all his books. 232. When Jiva Goswami wanted to go to Mathura from Bengal, he requested permission from Srila Nityananda Prabhu. Because of Jiva Goswami's relationship with Rupa Goswami and Sanātana Goswami, who were greatly favored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhu placed his feet on the head of Srila Jiva Goswami and embraced him. 234. Lord Nityananda Prabhu ordered, "Yes, go soon to Vrindavan. That place has been awarded to your family, to your father and uncles, by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore you must go there immediately." Text 235. By the order of Nityananda Prabhu, he went to Vrindavan and actually achieved the result of his order, for he compiled many books for a long time and preached the cult of bhakti from there. 236. These three, Rupa Gosvāmī, Sanātana Gosvāmī, and Jiva Gosvāmī, are my spiritual masters, and so also is Raghunath Das Goswami. I therefore offer prayers at their lotus feet, for I am their servant. 237. Thus I have understood how the Lord again met with Sanātana Goswami. By hearing this, I can understand the Lord's desire. 238. These characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like sugar cane that one can chew to relish transcendental juice. 239. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padiyara Ash Caitanya-caritāmrta Kahe Krishna Das. Translation: praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya-caritāmrta, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya-caritāmrta, Antya-līlā, 4th chapter, describing Sanātana Goswami's stay with the Lord at Jagannath Purī. Jai. Srila Sanātana Goswami ki Jai. Relationship to Sri Sanātana Goswami with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy on Sanātana Goswami. Jai Sri Haridas Thakur. The mercy of Haridas Thakur on Sanātana Goswami. Jai to all the devotees, the intimate associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hari Hari Bol. So these verses unpack Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshastaka. When Lord Chaitanya glorified the holy name, the process of congregational chanting and the holy name specifically, the third verse explains how one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly, or in other words, with attachment. And to do that, you have to become humble. Humble as a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. Ready to offer all respect to others, even if they don't offer respect to us. This way one can chant Hare Krishna constantly. So these books are not textbooks of information content. They are streams of nectar. They teach us how to practice devotional service under the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his eternal associates. So it may seem so far away from us, but we must try our best to practice acting like this with one another. We must try our best to follow the etiquettes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so nicely elaborated in this chapter. How attached he was to following the etiquettes. When Jagannātha, who was also an eternal associate of Krishna, advised Sanātana Goswami, he became very upset because of the relationship. Jagat was just a young boy. Sanātana was a wise, venerable, experienced person, both spiritually and materially. So we should learn what the etiquettes are and follow them, even if we can't follow them immediately in ecstatic love. At least we can practice following them. And we shouldn't shy away from practicing them. But we can get unlimited inspiration of why we should follow them and how we should follow them from this transcendental literature, the Caitanya-caritāmrta, the complete spiritual science. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll stop there. We're a little late already. We're almost at 8:10. I had to finish that chapter because it was just so nectarian and everything fit together so nicely. Okay, if there's any reflections, points that stuck out in your mind that you want to comment about or discuss, please be our guests.
First is a comment from Sudevi Dasi.
Okay, Hare Krishna Sudevi Dasi.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. You are my best B-Day present. This body is 65 today. Glories to Srila Prabhupada's books.
Well, happy birthday. I'm going on 75. I'll be 75 next spring, summer. I know what that feels like. Yes, these books are our life and soul, and they give us a taste, and we should associate with them as much as possible.
Next is something from Bhakta Ben.
Haribol Bhakta Ben.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai, glories to Prabhupada.
I can sense that there's so much depth and feeling to the interactions of Sri Chaitanya and his intimate associates. There are descriptions of so much transcendental emotion within these verses, but I know that I am not even close to understanding a minute fraction of it. I feel like an ant examining the Empire State Building. It's very nice to hear about the depths of their humility. Lord Chaitanya himself says that he was getting tested by Krishna. It's as if they are all under a spell of devotion and ecstatic love. Very enchanting.
It's not as if they are. It's not as if they were under the spell of transcendental love. They are in transcendental love. Hare Krishna. When you can say that about us, it's as if when we act properly, but with them, this is the real deal. Therefore, they're the exemplars, and we can learn how to feel and how to think and how to, plan and act as a devotee. Without these examples, we have no idea. And if we take a position in the movement as a sannyasi or a temple president or a GBC or any position, or to speak of guru, then we should follow these principles. We should know that our subordinates are devotees. This was the wonderful lesson that Sanātana Gosvāmī gave about how he felt, when he touched the bruising sores of the body of, Sanātana Gosvāmī. We should see each other, if we're devotees, we should see each other as spiritual. And then even if we don't see it literally, we act as though we do. Then it's as if we do. And that way we enter into the privilege of devotional service. That's what Krishna wants. That's what Lord Chaitanya wants. Hare Krishna.
Next is from Bhakta Charlie.
Jai Bhakta Charlie, Haribol.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, it is so nice to hear how the most perfect beings in all creation interact with one another.
Yes.
Feels like a real blessing to be able to read this with you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna, thank you. It's my pleasure. Pleasure is all mine, believe me. Okay, we're up to 8:15 and we're going to stop now. Thank you very much for your lovely comments. I know that this is one of my favorite parts of the whole book. And I know, anyway, I was attacked a couple of years ago by, 3 years ago, by typhoid fever. I brought it from India, apparently. Anyway, there was a confusion. I got it here. The symptoms came out here in the UK, and I was put into a hospital, and then I was released. And the actual diagnosis was not made until after I left. Then I got on a plane and went to the States, to Dallas. And while I was convalescing from having that fever, I read that one place that we read it yesterday, where it talked about how if you have a fever and are convalescing, you have to be very careful, otherwise you'll get a relapse. So I was writing my offering to Srila Prabhupada at that time, and I could only write a little bit, then I had to rest because I was convalescing. Then I read that, and I said, oh my gosh. And then sure enough, the next day I had a relapse. So I finished my offering based on that realization. And then I went to Houston, and I had a 50-day fever. I almost left my body. It was very close. And Guru Bhakti and Hari Bhakti and Hari Ballabh, the doctors there, devotee doctors, and they took care of me and saved me, actually. And but during that time, I was reading this section of the Caitanya-caritämrta, the Antya-līlā, and I read it every day for an hour out loud, even all through that fever. And one night, I actually felt, just before I started to read out loud to myself, that I didn't have anything. I had the kind of like I felt like I was propelled to that understanding and that feeling. And then I started to read, and the quality of the sound changed, and I felt self understanding more deeply, and I heard more than I normally do. And I understood that one needs to become nishkinchana. One needs to become detached from everything material to be able to hear everything. We'll never hear everything, but to understand, to hear spiritually. And therefore, ever since that time, I've been so attached to this part of Caitanya-caritämrta, of all the books. I agree with Charlie and Ben and the others that, and probably what other people are thinking also, it's just an inconceivable exhibition of pure devotional service that's tangible and palpable. One can feel it within one's bones practically. And so we should become attached to reading these books, the Gita, the Bhagavatam, Caitanya-caritämrta, these books especially, and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because they will take us to the spiritual world, where we can again associate with Lord Chaitanya and his associates, and Radha and Krishna and their associates. These are our real family members. Why shouldn't we become attached? We get so attached to our family members. Why shouldn't we get attached to, these are our real family members. If we get as attached to them as we get attached to our mundane family members, then we can make rapid advancement in devotional life, devotional service. So that's all I have to say about that. Hare Krishna, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees who are so fortunate to be able to hear the Caitanya-caritämrta like this. And we'll see you tomorrow night, same place, same time, same topic, pure juice, transcendental juice we can drink and become fully satisfied. Hare Krishna, Happy New Year.